Happy Halloween everyone, and if you're not watching this video in October, then happy whatever day of the year it is. If you're familiar with my channel, I'm currently working on a series called Road to Gojira, which covers numerous monster films leading up to the original Godzilla movie. When I worked on episode 9, I covered an array of Japanese monster pictures. One of the movies I briefly mentioned, but didn't cover, was The Invisible Man Appears, which came out in 1949. I decided not to cover it at the time for two reasons. First, that video was getting a little too long. Secondly, The Invisible Man Appears is a watchable movie, which is why I decided to cover it around Halloween, in contrast to many of the movies I covered in that episode, which were either lost films or movies I didn't have access to. Now this review kind of lined up nicely, considering I just finished reviewing Mighty Joe Young, which came out the same year as this movie. Now I'd like to point out that this is not part of my Road to Gojira series, but you could think of this as a bonus episode, as it does have a small connection to Godzilla, which I'll discuss later. Time for a little history. The Invisible Man started off life as a novel in 1897, which was written by British writer H.G. Wells. The plot revolves around an unhinged man named Jack Griffin, who devises a means to make himself invisible, but with no cure to reverse the effect, rendering him invisible permanently. After failing to attempt a cure, Griffin becomes even more insane by utilizing his newfound invisibility as a means to torture the nation. The story and character gained further notoriety in 1933 when the tale was adapted for the big screen by Universal Pictures. This helped to establish the character as one of the iconic Universal monsters, alongside Dracula and the Frankenstein monster, and spawned several more Invisible Man sequels in the coming years. Japan also dipped their hands in a few of their own Invisible Man movies. Daiei Studios, whom you may know as the company that brought the Gamera series to life, produced the first Japanese Invisible Man movie in 1949, titled Tomei Ningen Aru Aru, translated as The Invisible Man Appears, often considered to be one of the first Japanese science fiction movies. While the concept is loosely based on the H.G. Wells source material, the narrative ventures off into its own little thing. For starters, the film takes place in Japan rather than England, and follows a few scientists who are trying to come up with a way to turn living things invisible. And naturally, one of them discovers a way to do just that. Just like the 1933 film, the effects of the invisibility serum cannot be reversed, and once anyone takes it, they become invisible forever, alongside the effect of the victim slowly going insane. Now, of course, the idea of an invisible being makes for a fantastic horror story. It's unsettling to think that someone believes they're alone, while in fact they're unaware that someone is standing just right next to them, stalking them. This can make anyone feel uncomfortable, as no matter where they are, they never know exactly where the Invisible Man is. Of course, unless he laughs out loud maniacally. One might expect to see something truly spine-tingling based on the poster's eerie design. The Invisible Man Appears may look like a horror movie from the outset, but the story is more of a crime drama rather than a spooky thriller. That's not to say that there are no creepy components sprinkled throughout, but the story is more focused on a gang of crooks led by this guy named Kawabe, who manipulates most of the characters in an attempt to steal a special piece of jewelry called the Tears of Amor. This necklace is essentially the film's MacGuffin. What makes it so crucial? Well, the movie only aims to convey that it was previously part of a famous dynasty. Nothing more, nothing less. The thieves only need that information to attempt to steal it. But how did they do so? Of course, with an invisible man. But how did they get one? Well, early in the movie, they kidnapped the lead scientist who created the invisible serum, Dr. Nakazato. And then later on, they kidnapped Kodakawa, who was one of Dr. Nakazato's proteges, who also came close to creating the invisibility serum. Afterwards, the Invisible Man enters the scene. It's then the film begins to drop major hints that the Invisible Man is Dr. Nakazato, who is now collaborating with the crooks to steal the necklace. At this point, the movie also aims to introduce a mystery about the identity of the Invisible Man. Although I like the concept, the execution is merely sloppy, because the story really only gives us two suspects as to who this could be. Now, when a plot heavily leads the audience into believing that the man behind the mask is person A, you can be sure that it's actually going to be person B. It's subverting your expectations, but it's not doing it in a very clever way. And spoiler alert ahead, it is indeed Kodakawa. You see, Kurokawa is only collaborating with the thieves in order to save him and the professor's life. But the only way they're going to let them go is if Kurokawa becomes the Invisible Man and steals the necklace. Kawabe even offers a potion to cure the invisibility, but only if Kurokawa perseveres and steals the necklace. Agreeing to these terms, Kurokawa takes the serum and starts groping himself as he becomes the Invisible Man. He then attempts to steal the Tears of Amor, quite a few times actually, but fails so each attempt. Yes, you would believe it would be very simple to try and grab a single piece of jewelry with an invisible man, but he fails so frequently that it becomes comical at points. He could have easily stolen it in a handful of situations, but he always has to make a big deal out of letting everyone know he's there with his maniacal laughter. Dude, why are you laughing like a maniac? You're trying to save a man's life here. Grab the jewel and haul ass out of there. Now, the Invisible Man's design is quite similar to the Universal Pictures one, as evidenced by his bandaged face, dark eyeglasses, and full body covering. It's a great horrifying look even for today. Then there is the grandiose effect and the obvious highlight of the film when the Invisible Man begins peeling away his attire. This is quite amazing in terms of special effects for the 1940s. Now, this trick had been done before in the Universal films, but the technique is replicated here very nicely, and it was done by Eiji Tsuburaya, who many will recognize as the man who eventually oversaw the effects work for many of the early Godzilla movies. Tsuburaya was a fan of the 1933 film and utilized the same method to create his own Invisible Man, providing us with some amazing scenes that still look great even today. Not flawless, mind you, but a fantastic accomplishment for the time. I also wish the movie would have had a little more fun with the concept. The Invisible Man is really nothing more than a pawn in this movie, and the only reason he's invisible is to steal a necklace. That is all the criminals want him to do. Not covertly attack their adversaries, nor take other gems or money, just get this one exact piece of jewelry and then they're done with him. No joke, they are literally going to kill him after they get this. Now what's funny about that is that at one point, the thieves hire a goon dressed up as the Invisible Man to steal the necklace in a highway robbery, and they manage to pull it off. The fake Invisible Man manages to get the necklace in one attempt over the few times the real one tried for it. Kurokawa, you are one disappointing Invisible Man. Regarding the other cast members, I have very little to say about them, because I think they're all somewhat forgettable, stoic, and dull. The only one that really sticks out, I suppose, is Ryoko Mizuki, the sister of the Invisible Man. She's an actress and club singer who constantly wears very unique clothing, which is definitely the reverse of what her brother is wearing, which is nothing most of the film. She stands out and he's invisible. Overall, The Invisible Man appears as a mediocre thriller. It has some wonderful moments after the Invisible Man shows himself, but things quickly deteriorate afterwards. The crime storyline isn't bad, but the whole cat and mouse chase thing for this one piece of jewelry just draws itself out too much in the middle to final act. Still, it's an interesting piece of tokusatsu history, and despite its mediocre cast and rough editing half the time, I'd still give it a watch. Oh yeah, and there's also an invisible cat in the movie too. Happy Halloween everyone, and I will see you next time.
Sunday, Godzilla crashes the party. It's a 2-day bash guaranteed to bring down the house. End the year in a big way. Rip into a weekend of Monster Vision. Next on TNT.